Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempests rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whatever may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely. Assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things. Give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod. As brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God. Good evening. Let's edify one another, shall we? Happened to play with my new toy. New to me, anyway. Beautiful tone to it.
That's Shenandoah, right?
That is Shenandoah. Yeah. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you. Away, you rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you. Away, I'm bound away across the wide Missouri. It was a man singing. It was actually kind of a love song because actually it goes on talking about his daughter, Shenandoah's daughter. Shenandoah was the chief of a tribe of Indians, as well as a river. Good evening, Angie. Oh, Shenandoah, I love thy daughter. Away, you rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I love thy daughter. Away, I'm bound away across the wide Missouri. Yes, I bought at auction last night. I went and picked it up this afternoon after worship. This Chromatica harmonica, and I don't know what year it is. It has like 4 patents on it, three patent days. So I don't know which one it is. I don't know how old this one is, but it's a Kia C, and it has this really cool feature to it. I showed it on reading, but you can see there's that, and then you can get the sharps just by pressing that button. So whoop, whoop. There's the natural C, and then there's the sharps. CJ hopes that Angie enjoyed the program. Well, she was over at the reading. And of course, if she falls asleep, at least, hello, Sam. Good morning. Good evening, Reba. Angie saw some of it. She's going to rewatch the rest of it. Well, you start your stream shortly, right around the time I go live, like shortly after I go live. Seems like at least when I get notified of your thing. So I'll give you I'll show you what that sounds like when you press that button. I can have all sorts of fun police sirens. Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. And this little slide actually can be taken off, and you just have a natural key of C. My great grandfather had several harmonicas, and I had one of his when I went to preaching school, and somewhere in between that and the time that I moved up to Minnesota, it got lost, and I really, really am saddened by that. Instead of having the slide chamber like this, it actually had a double. So it was actually two harmonicas in one. And it had two sets of slots, two sets of holes. But he used to go to like the barn dances, and he used to play, from what I understand anyway, he used to go to the barn dances and play harmonica. Sam used to own a couple of harmonicas, had a drum set. It sounded like falling downstairs. Had electric guitar in his lifetime and still do not know how to play. You hope that I lose that? Buddy, I haven't lost the last one that I had. I haven't lost my other one. I just never played it for you. I have one in the key of A, and I have this one in the key of C. The key of A, my father-in-law convinced me to get because it's a blues harmonica. Never really got into playing the blues. I pretty decent at. Oh wait, nope, wrong. I was wrong. It's key of D, not key of A. Thank you, Ezra. And it's a little dinky one. This is a marine band instead of an. Grandpa had a Honer. My great grandfather had an M Honer. So now I've got a Chromatica, and then I have. Oh, this is an M Honer as well. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a marine band. And I normally play this one. Oop, wrong side. Which is a little bit easier for me pitch wise. Um, Um, so, I mean, as you can see, being a smaller one, it's easier for me to get my hand around and give me that good. Um, it allows me to give a good chamber to it, so I can do um, a better quality or a better echo for. So you can actually hear that wah wah in there a lot better than trying it with this one, which because of its size, I have to change my hand position just a bit. Ooh, Angie gives me a question. She doesn't want to go to sleep just yet. Sam says, "Blue brother blues." I'm not as good as before I get into Angie's question. I'm not as good as Dan Aykroyd and Jim Belushi and stuff like that, but I won't ever claim to be, and I probably never will be. I just dabble. I just play when the mood strikes me. CJ says you'll be going around playing it after each kid gets off the bus. Thank you, Reba. There's a song from Blues Brother. Oh yes, the Rubber Biscuit. It's like, you know me. I got to give the stream something to stir it up. That's okay, Angie. Remember, this is the time for you to do that. Just that. I mean, that's what the stream is. If something's on your mind, got a question, what have you, just feel free to ask it, because this is all about you and how I can edify you. Yeah, I can talk about harmonicas, but I'd rather talk about what's on your mind. So she says, why do you think it's important to honor and discipline our bodies? What is the purpose of making the most of our time? There are several thoughts that come to mind about it. And the first part is actually dealing with the discipline of our bodies. I'm not sure about the honoring our bodies. However, there is something to that as well. First off, let's begin with the honoring our bodies. We need to honor our bodies or value our bodies because our bodies are made in the image of God. If we look at Genesis, I mean, when we look at Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 28, we find that God created man in his own image. Not the physical image, but that God created us in his image. We have a soul, we have an eternal nature to us, or an eternal side of spirit, a living will. If you look at Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7, God formed man. He formed man. It's almost a special, it carries, the wording carries with it the idea of him taking his hand and shaping the clay. Whereas if you look at Genesis chapter 1, and on day 6, for example, the rest of the animals, all he did was speak them into existence. So he willed them into existence. So why should we honor our bodies? Well, first off, because we have been specially made in the image of God. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. CJ, can you grab me that reference, please? As David says in the Psalms, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so there comes with it a degree of honor that goes with that.
Psalm 139:14.
Alicia, can you pull that, or who's on tech? Okay. Psalm 130, so 137?
39. 139.
139:15.
14.
14. Hey, I was close. I
Boy,
was two chapters off. I was 2 chapters off in one verse. So
well, you really listen to me. I see how it is.
139 verse 14.
Come on, I only said it like 5 times to Levi.
Yeah, but she wasn't here for most of that.
uh,
14. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. So we should honor our bodies because God created them. Even though we are a product of the laws that He set in motion, you and I, there is still an element of creation that goes on. How does the soul enter the body? We don't know. But we do know that life begins at conception. And we do know that from the moment that life is conceived, that our bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made. So we need to give that honor and that respect to our bodies that they deserve. Now, that does not to say, of course, that we should be doing like the Egyptians or many of the pagan nations that go and deify the the gods or deify aspects of our bodies. Deify. Well, it's always been interesting to me that the Egyptians have in their creating their gods, they always had heads of animals but bodies of men. And you look at the Greek and the Roman gods. What were they? They were figments of imagination that extolled the specific aspects of mankind. That's what those gods were. You have the god of war, the god of love, the god of plenty. You have the god of the oceans. But in every case, you look at them and they were just basically glorified humans. So I'm not saying that that's the ways that we should go, but we should definitely give them honor and respect. Now look at Genesis chapter 9, and let's begin about verse 5. 4. But you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. Surely for your lifeblood I will demand a reckoning. From the hand of every beast I will require it, and from the hand of man, from the hand of every man's brother, I will require the life of man. Now, why is this so important? Why is it that God is requiring a reckoning for the life of mankind? If a beast were to kill a man, there's a reckoning. If a man kills a man, there's a reckoning. Why? Whosoever sheds man's blood, or whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. For in the image of God he made man. So there's the principle. There's the reason, the law. If an animal kills a man, that animal needs is to be reckoned with. It is to die because he has shed the blood of a person that was created in the image of God. If a man does the same thing, then there needs to be a reckoning. And so we need to, in that regard, give proper honor to our bodies. It is one of the reasons that I have such an empathy or a sorrow for those who try um, to look down on their body. Yes, the life is in the blood, Sam, but you notice that that if it weren't for the body, the blood would be it wouldn't be necessary. They work together. And we often go immediately to the idea of the life is in the blood and we miss the idea that that there is a reckoning for the the slaying of a man, the slaying of or the taking of man's life. There isn't the same reckoning for the taking of an animal's life, if you notice. Now, like I said, I have a sorrow for those who try to mangle the body or to look down or to have such problems with their bodies. Because we have been led to believe by society that bodies need to be a certain way in order to be pleasing or to be healthy or to be, whatever. And we forget that our bodies were created by God. Not every body is a slim, trim, felt, body. Some bodies are going to be heavy set because that's the way they were created to be. When I look at myself in the mirror, okay, my bone structure is wide, it is strong, it is barrel chested. I am not going to look good at 180 pounds like my grandfather was. It's not going to happen. If I get much under 220, my body is going to look anemic. Now, if I was shorter or I didn't have as broad a chest and shoulders as I do, then it would be a different matter. But my body type is not going to be one that looks well at lower weight, where a lot of other people are going to look better. And so we need to remember that and to give proper honor and say, God made me the way I am. Now that's not to, again, let's not carry it to extreme and say, okay, I'm the way that God made me, and so therefore I can remain, I can binge eat and I can or I can be lazy and or I can just simply let my health go to pot, as in go to seed, and just balloon out to 500 pounds or more. That's not what this is about. Because as we noticed, when God created man, if we go back over to Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 28, specifically verse 28, what we notice is that God says to man, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over every living thing that moves on the earth. God has given man a task. And So we have to be stewards of what God has given us, and that includes our body, our health. If we are not proper stewards of our health, then we're sinning against the purpose that God has set for us. That's not the overriding purpose. The overriding purpose, of course, is to share the gospel and to, make sure that we run our race, our Christian race. But we are called to be stewards. And if we don't fulfill our stewardship, then we are in error. Um, Again, let me qualify that again and say that that's not our main focus, but it is a secondary focus. Our health is a secondary focus, um, or our physical fitness is a secondary focus. Um, Speaking to your question, Sam, how does one mangle the body? Well, one can mangle the body by developing such things as bulimia or constant dieting to the point of where they are um, anemic and thin, as in they're unhealthy thin. They can mangle the body by all sorts of ways: plastic surgery, changing changing their face structure, being unhappy with their body in any aspect. Well, I don't like my nose, so I'm going to change my nose. I don't like my jawline. One can mangle their body um, and destroy what God has given them. The Good Samaritan got beat. Well, he didn't choose to get beat. So
The Good Samaritan got beat, or the guy who was
actually, it
robbed?
wasn't the Good Samaritan that got beat. It was the other man that got beat.
The guy who was robbed and left for dead.
Yeah, that one. Okay. The Jewish man that got robbed on his journey is the one that got mangled. The problem with what your statement is that there again, you're I don't know if you're trying to be funny or not, but it is not. How do I put this? You understand what my point is, and you are um, trying to distract from that point. The point is that people who choose to mangle their body are dishonoring their body. Um, it's the same thing with people who are dissatisfied with the way that God made them in any aspect. Um, so I can say, well, I've got too big of a nose. Um, every time I think about that, I think of Cyrano rather. The Who was that one that told that? Was it Tennyson? Anyway, the play regarding Cyrano, the man who had too long of a nose and wanted to woo the beautiful. Um, I can't remember what her name was. Anyway, and he hired but his nose was going to get in the way, so he hired his best friend, I think it was, who Oh, what was it? He hired his best friend to woo her for him, and it was a disaster. Oh, I see. That may be the case, O'Shea. So it is important that we honor our bodies. So I wanted to keep that one at the forefront. Now, why is it important for us to discipline our bodies? To discipline our bodies, it goes back to the point that Paul made, where he said in the King James, I buffet my body. I think that was King James. It might be the ASV. But I bring it under subjection. Why? Um, he said, so, so that it's in Corinthians. Might be in
First,
Corinthians.
First Corinthians 9:27.
Thank you. 1 Corinthians 9:27, Alicia.
Yes, I do buffet my body.
You buffet your body.
And I like to do that. I did that a few weeks ago. But I buffet. Oh, wait a minute. That's not.
27, Alicia. Okay, let's back up a few verses here. Paul, keep going until I tell you to stop. Let's start here in 20. Nope, let's see. Okay. 21, 20, 19. Here we go. Start here in 18. Okay. Gloria, I don't know what you're saying. What is my reward then? That when I preach the gospel, I may present the gospel of Christ without charge, that I may not abuse my authority in the gospel. Let's keep rolling. For though I am free from all men, I have made myself a servant to all, that I might win the more. And to the Jews I became a Jew, that I might win Jews. To those who are under the law, as under the law, that I might win those who are under the law. Hello, Gloria. Good to see you. To those who are without law, as without law, not being without law toward God, but under law toward Christ, that I might win those who are without law. To the weak I became as weak, that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all men, that I might, back it up, that I might by all means save some. Now 23. Now, this I do for the gospel's sake, that I may be, that I may be partaker of it with you. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it. And everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things, that is, self controlled, is controlled in all things. Now, they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but we for an imperishable crown. Therefore, I run thus, not with uncertainty, verse 26. Thus I fight, not as one who beats the air, but I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. The main purpose that we discipline our bodies is so that we control our bodies. If we allow our emotions, for example, to dictate how our responses to um, any given situation, are we in control? As I'm driving the school bus, I'll have. Thank you, Gloria. Not really. As I'm driving the school bus, I'll have one of the kids pop up, so and so hit me, and then the other one says, well, yeah, but you hit me first. Okay, so child one hit child two because child two hit child one. Who was in control? Who responded out of emotion? Sam says feelings separate from the fact. No, feelings are to be separate from the fact. No, our feelings are separate from the fact. No, we need to be sober thinking. Child two was in control of child one because he is the one that, or she is the one that prompted the emotion for child one to hit child two. Which one responded out of emotion? Child one, because child two hit child one. Technically, neither one of them was, and neither one of them was in control. Both of them responded out of emotion because child two only hit child one because child one did something else. You see, they don't have any control. They lack control. We discipline our bodies. We discipline ourselves to gain control because only when we are in control of ourselves can we truly surrender ourselves to Christ. Genesis chapter 4. Scroll down. Now, here in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brings an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord, and Abel also brings a fruit offering of the firstborn of his flock and their fat. The Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So let me ask you, was Cain in control of himself? And she says no. Reba says no. CJ says yes. Was Cain in control of himself? He was very angry. His countenance fell. Or was his emotions in control? Well, he hasn't gotten to that point yet, has he? I got you, Gloria. I see your comment. Oh, she just went to Messenger. The Lord says to Cain, why are you angry? Why has your countenance fallen? So Cain is giving in to his emotions. Hey, she's back. CJ says, sorry, his emotions were in control. Thank you, CJ. Okay, so let's look down in verse 6. God has said to Cain, why are you angry? Why has your countenance fallen? Now, verse 7. God gives him the key. If you do well, you will, or if you do well, will you not be accepted? Well, that's a rhetorical question. Of course, you will be accepted if you do well. No, I haven't asked. No, let's go back up here, Alicia. We're not ready to move down. Thank you, right there. And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. One of the reasons I like the ASV better than the NKJV in this is there's a big difference between should and do. The should leaves the option. You should rule over it, but if you don't, that's okay. You see what I'm saying? It leaves the door open for it leaves it as an option. Whereas the ASV, where it says, "But do thou rule over it," in other words, you do rule over it. God is giving a command, and He says you are to rule over it. So if you do not do well, you have you have a problem, because sin is lying in wait at the door, and it wants you. Now, if it gets you, then you're going to be subject to its whim, to its desires. But its desire is for you. It wants you. It wants to eat you up. That's why I always pair Genesis 4 with 1 Peter chapter 5, where Satan is walking about as a roaring lion. I hope that's 5. Yeah, 5.
Yep, 5:8.
So, because sin and Satan are both given the idea of couching like a lion, or are acting like lions. So, you are to rule over it, God says. Why are you angry? Anger, in this case, is going to lead to sin. Why is your countenance fallen? It's going to lead to sin unless you rule over it, and you are to rule over it. Let's read down. Now, Cain talked with Abel in the field. So Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and killed him. So Cain gave in to his emotion, didn't he? He was not disciplined. He wasn't in control. If he had been in control, then Cain would have been alive. Cain wouldn't have died Abel wouldn't have died due to Cain's murderous rage or jealousy. Hosea says he acted on his anger and jealousy. That's right. So we discipline ourselves to bring ourselves into subjection, into control. Just like a runner who is preparing for a race disciplines themselves to run that race. You can't just simply, I'm going to run a marathon and expect to win, having put in no preparation. You're not going to go run a 5K marathon without any preparation. You've got to build up your stamina. You've got to discipline yourself and bring your body into control so that you can drive your body to make that 5K run. In the same manner as you don't get into the boxing ring without having ever had any lessons, because you're going to fail. They're going to one punch you. You're going to go down and cry out like a baby on the mat. No, you're going to, just like Paul said, I beat the air, I shadow box, I discipline myself to bring myself into subjection to get to the point of where I can actually do what I'm supposed to do. And so, in order to, proper discipline begins with a proper honor. When we hold our bodies within that proper perspective, hey, my body's been made in the image of God. I need to be a good steward of my body, and that means bringing my body into a healthy state, or as much as I can, and also bringing my emotions into control and controlling myself, uh, so that my response is not a knee-jerk reaction, so that I am in control and can surrender control to Christ. Galatians chapter 2 and verse 20, um, so that I can make my life a sacrifice to God. Romans 12, 1 and 2. Then when we start with that proper perspective, we begin to exercise discipline. And we discipline our life or our spirit. We exercise it. We develop it. That's how we add to our faith. All those aspects from Second Peter chapter 1 verses 3 through 9 and 3 through 11. That's how we let the Spirit produce those fruits from Galatians chapter 5. By bringing by having that proper perspective and bringing our bodies into control, by denying ourselves. What is our knee-jerk reaction? What is our first reaction when somebody slanders us or when somebody slaps us? We're going to holler back and insult them, or we're going to slap them. Yet, what is the example that our Lord and Savior did? Who, though he was reviled not, opened not his mouth, as Peter says in 1 Peter chapters 2, 3, and 4. He talks about how even though Christ, in all of his persecution, he never once retaliated. He turned away. Actually, the opened not his mouth comes from Isaiah chapter 53. As the sheep before its shearers is dumb, so opened he not his mouth. And it was such that as you read the gospel accounts, that it impressed Pilate. Do you have nothing to say? Well, of course he has nothing to say. They knew that the accusations were false. The Pharisees knew it. Pilate knew it. But it wasn't going to change anything if Jesus opened his mouth. Children occasionally will say, hey, so and so said this about my mom, or said this about about me, or okay, so is it true? No. Do you know it's not true? Yeah. So what's the matter? If you know it's not true, why are you getting upset? Why do I get upset when I know it's not true? Is it worth my time to worry over how someone else thinks about me, or about my mom or my wife, or yeah, of course I'm going to stand up and defend my wife. Don't let me don't let me give you the wrong idea, because she's my wife. I will defend her to the end, to the bitter end. Um, but I know it's not true. Sam had a lady slap him before and then let him do it again. Said, "Are you done?" And I told you, I said, "Do you feel better?" Because the third time, and that was a waste of emotion to do so. And then said nothing. And I said nothing to deserve this, but told you the truth. Yeah. We discipline ourselves because we have a right perspective about our bodies and about where we're going or where we want to go and who is really in control. If all authority has been granted unto Christ, then that means I need to submit to his authority. And the only way I can do that is if I bring myself into control in order to give that control to him. But if I'm giving my control of my life, my emotions, my reactions to somebody else who is not Christ, what am I doing? Yes, love? Good night, love.
Yes.
If we're giving all that control to someone else, then we're not in control of ourselves. We're letting somebody else dictate how we act, and um, that's not how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to give our control to Christ by being in control of ourselves. Seems a strange dichotomy, doesn't it? Now, what is the purpose of making the most of our time? It goes back to the idea of stewardship. We have been given a bunch, been given a lot. And here's the thing. Let's see here. Find me that passage about redeeming the time. Colossians, I believe it is.
Ephesians 5:17.
Is that the only one?
Probably not.
I was thinking of Colossians. Okay, Ephesians 5:17. Let's look at the idea of redeeming the time or making the most of our time. First and foremost, God has given us tasks to do as humans. We were given a stewardship of this planet. Now, I'm not going to go to the extreme that a lot of the, that people tend to go to on this. Yes, we need to be steward of our resources, good stewards. No, I am not saying that the animals and the trees and stuff are so important that they have become gods to these people. But I am saying that 17, Alicia, I am saying that we need to be proper stewards. A proper steward does not waste what he has been given, what they have been given. They put it to the proper use. Yes, CJ?
I was so close. One verse off.
16. Okay, scroll back up just a minute. Scroll back up till I tell you to stop. Okay. Yeah, still go a little bit further up. All right. Yeah, let's start at the top of the verse, top of the chapter. We'll get the whole context there. Um, Now, having understood that principle of God, that we have been given stewardship of all this stuff, and yet we have also been given a stewardship of our lives, time, the time that we have on this earth. We have been given a stewardship of the gospel, because what has been given into our hands? We sing that song, swiftly we're turning life's daily pages, swiftly the hours are turning and changing to years. How are we using God's golden moments? Shall we reap glory or shall we reap tears? Into our hands the gospel is given, into our hands is given the light. Good night, Gloria. You have a wonderful, and your nurse. Did I miss something, my sister? You have a good night as well. Haste, let us carry God's precious message back to the airing, back to the light. How does that one go? Haste, let us carry God's precious message, guiding the airing back to the light. And that's because we have been granted time and the gospel. Therefore, to be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us. And verse 2, please. An offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling aroma. I'm going to pause there just one moment. Jesus lived on this earth for approximately 33 years. 3 of that years, from as near as we can tell, 3 of the years was gospel. 3 of those years was spent walking to and fro among Israel, and spreading the good news of his life, of his being there. I am the way. This day has salvation been brought unto Israel. Or repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. 3 years. One would say that he did not waste 1 ounce of the time that he was given. You might wonder what he did for those first 30 years, but that's all summed up in the end of Luke chapter 2, the very last verse, which tells us that he increased in favor with God and man, increased in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and man. The formulative period as a man. We have an example. Even from the age of 12, he knew he must be about his father's business. Yet he went home and was subject to his parents because that was his father's business. We are to walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering, a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling aroma. Remember, Philippians 2, verses 5 through 11 tells us that we are to have the same mind as God, as Christ. And that mindset, that attitude was one of obedience to the will of God. Now, but fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, verse 3, please, Alicia. Let it not even be named among you, as is fitting for saints, neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor coarse jesting, which are not fitting, but rather giving of thanks. For this you know, that no fornicator, unclean person, or covetous man who is an idolater has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these things the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore, do not be partakers of them with them. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Let your light so shine that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 and 15. That's kind of the tail end of that. But anyway, for the fruit of or walk as children of light, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth. Finding out what is verse 10, please. Finding out what is acceptable, what is acceptable to the Lord, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. 12. For it is shameful even to speak of those things which are done by them in secret, but all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light. They're made known by the light. For whatever makes known is light. Therefore, he says, awake you who sleep, arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. 16. Redeeming the time because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be unwise, but understand what the will of the Lord is. Okay, we can continue on, but let's stop there. We are to walk circumspectly, wisely, cautiously, properly, um, not as foolish people, but as wise people. Redeem. How do they walk? Redeeming the time because the days are evil. Making good use of their time. The problem is that we lived in sin, wasting our life up to this point, to the point that we became Christians. We wasted our life in sin, in disobedience to God. So we have to make a correction. We have to make a change. And so we're going to buy back or redeem the time, make proper use of the time, make proper, let's give a good account of our use as a just steward, not as an unjust steward. Because what we wasted we'll never get back, but we can from this point forward carry out God's will. Furthermore, you and I, if you guys were able to listen to Dad's sermon this morning, you notice that he gave four relationships, four of our relationships with God, and two of those you had the master servant relationship and the king. The king citizen, yeah, king something, relation subject. That's the word I was looking for. I knew it started with an S, and I couldn't. I was drawing a blank. King subject relationship with us. In other words, he's the king, we're the subjects. He's the master, we're the servants. So when he commands us to be busy, what are we supposed to do? When the master has commanded the servant to do something, is the servant allowed to sit around and do nothing? CJ says we're supposed to do it. When the king commands the subject to do something, when he sets a law, then he expects that law to be obeyed. And when the master sets a task for the servant, he expects that task to be carried out. The master has said, "Go ye into all the world and teach the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world." Amen. Matthew chapter 28, verses 18 through 20. Go ye therefore into all the world and preach the gospel. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. He that believeth not shall be damned. Matthew 16 or Mark 16, verses 15 and 16. He has furthermore set other tasks for us. That is, Romans chapter 12, how we are to be hospitable, how we are to act towards one another, how we are to act towards those who are outside the faith. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, as Sam has been putting up. There's a lot there to cover, how we are to act toward one another and what we are to have in our life. There's interactions on how we are to treat, how the aged are to treat the younger, and how the younger are to treat the aged in Paul's letters to Timothy and Titus. A couple of years ago, we had a lesson. I think it's a couple of years ago. Maybe it's only been a year. It's hard to remember. We had a series of lessons in our gospel edification meetings entitled Living Faithfully in January. I think it was January. CJ will correct me, and I'll probably be completely off, but it runs in my mind it was January.
Yeah, I don't think it was last January, though.
I was thinking it was 2022. And in it, we covered how to live faithfully in this world as a Christian, how we relate in our relation to one another, in our husband and wife relationships, in our friends, as friends with those of the world, as our siblings in Christ, and as our children, child relationships, and our job relationships, etc. So, what is the purpose of making the most of our time? It is being good stewards of what God has given us so that we can stand before the Lord and give an account on that last day. I'm not ignoring your comments, Sam, but I am ignoring your comments because I'm ignoring your comments because I've got a point to make. Dad mentioned, I wish I had my Bible right here with me, but he mentioned Luke, where Jesus said in the master-servant relationship that at the end, basically when we're done, all we are is unprofitable servants. Could be. If you got my notebook, it'd be there with the note about unprofitable servants. Not that you could read a cursive because, you just haven't got that far, but you kind of do. Hmm. That's because I'm usually writing really fast and I don't have a good. um, let's see, turn over to Luke 16. Shua, take my Bible to O'Shea, or bring it here, one of the two. I don't care. Scroll down. Thank you, sweetie. Luke 17, 7 through 10. You were close, O'Shea. Luke 17. It has been. See, this is what O'Shea was talking about with my squiggly writing. Well, I'll wait until we go up live. Or go up big. And which of you, having a servant plowing or tending sheep, will say to him when he has come in from the field, "Come at once and sit down to eat"? But will he not rather say to him, "Prepare something for my supper, and gird yourself and serve me till I have eaten and drunk, and afterward you will eat and drink"? Does he thank the servant because he did the things that were commanded him? I think not. Verse 10, please. So likewise, you, when you have done all these things which you are commanded, say, "We are unprofitable servants. We have done what was our duty to do." The purpose of making the most of our time is because we are unprofitable servants. Additionally, see if I can find it in here real quick. Additionally, every single one of us is going to stand before God at the judgment, and we are going to be called into account and to give an account. I think that's in Revelation, what I'm going to go for. Revelation 20 and verse 12, Alicia. And while you're going there, here, CJ, bring me up big, large. See, this is my my writing, my squiggliness. This is today's right over here. I was kind of in a hurry, didn't have a very good stable um, place to write. Unlike this one, where you can see the difference in my writing. This is my notebook, my sermon notes. And I began taking notes in this book February 25th, 2018. So this has sermon notes all the way back to Sunday, February 25th, 2018. It also has a few men's meeting notes in it as well. Okay. So, Revelation 20 and verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. Why do we want to make the most of our time? I have one other point along this line to make. I think there's another. Um, okay, well, Romans 4, Romans 14:12. One other pair with this particular passage is Romans 14 verses 11 and 12. There's another one too, but we are going to be we are going to be judged by our words, and I believe that one is Acts, isn't it, CJ?
Matthew 12:37.
There was another one that said something about giving an account of our acts or our works, the things which we have done. Said Matthew 12. Go ahead.
2 Corinthians 5:10.
Let's 2 Corinthians 5:10. How come we weren't in Romans 14, 11, and 12 yet? I just now noticed that she wasn't there. Romans 14. Or are you in Corinthians? You're in Corinthians. What was that, Corinthians?
Second.
So I thought you said second.
5:10. 10. No.
Chapter 5, verse 10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to what he has done, whether good or bad. We got to make sure that we give a good account. We got to make sure that we have fulfilled our ministry. We have run our race, as Paul says to Timothy in 2 Timothy. We are ready for that crown of life. But as we go to, or as the other point I wanted to bring out was another parable. And of course, I took my hand out of the page that had all my listing of the parables and where I was going to find it. Matthew chapter 25, please. Beginning in verse 14. Kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling to a far country who called his own servants and delivered his goods to them. We're going to read several verses, Alicia, so let's scroll, shall we? And to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own abilities. And immediately he went on a journey. Then he who had received 5 talents went and traded with them and made another 5 talents. And likewise he who had received 2 gained 2 more also. But he who had received 1 went and dug in the ground and hid his Lord's money. After a long time, the Lord of the servants came and settled accounts with them. So he who had received 5 talents came and brought 5 other talents, saying, Lord, you delivered to me 5 talents. Look, I have gained 5 more talents beside them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You who are faithful over a few things, I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. He also who had received 2 talents, came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents beside them. His Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Then he who had received 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you have not sown, and gathering where you have not scattered seed. And I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. Look here, there you have what is yours. But the Lord answered and said to him, you wicked and lazy servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. So you ought to have deposited my money in with the bankers, and at my coming I would have received back my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has more will be given, and he who will have abundance. But from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Those of the Lord's servants who are lazy and are not doing anything with what God has given them will not enter into the joy of the Lord. The kingdom of heaven is like this Lord. The kingdom of heaven is like this Lord. And the kingdom of heaven has given to us certain things, responsibilities, when we became citizens of the kingdom. The king of the kingdom has given us certain responsibilities. You have responsibility to carry out the master's will. If we are not redeeming the time or making the most of the time that God has given us, we will be called into account for that. And it all comes back down to that idea of honoring, or of honor. Who are we honoring? When we are disciplining our bodies, who are we really honoring? When we are having to give our bodies the proper respect as something that was made by God, who are we really honoring? When we are making the most of our time, who are we really honoring? The man who had 5 talents went out because of his honor, of his desire to fulfill the task that his master had given him. He went out and he made 5 other talents. This isn't about abilities. As a lot of people will read the word talent and they automatically go to the idea of what are my talents? Folks, talent in the Bible times was a medium of money. And you notice they were given money according to their abilities. We have been given something according to our ability. We each of us have time. We each of us have the gospel. We each of us have responsibilities in the kingdom of heaven according to our ability. We need to carry that out. Every one of us have a soul. How are we using God's precious moments? Yes, you repeated yourself, Sam. Oh, I see. You added the word not. Gotcha. Those who do not fulfill the master's command are like the servant who took what was given and hid it in the earth. We have been given life. We have been given time. Let's redeem the time. Let's not hide the word. Let's not hide the fact that God is our master. Let's not hide what God has given us. Let us share it far and wide. We read last week in the book of Psalms, I believe it was Psalm 70. Let me check. Da, 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 da. Um, that was 71. Psalm 71, verse 8. Let my mouth be filled with your praise and with your glory all the day. Psalm 71, verse 14. Now, verse 14, Alicia. But I will hope continually and will praise you yet more and more. My mouth shall tell of your righteousness and your salvation all the day. For I know not the numbers thereof. Now, verse 23 and 24. My lips shall greatly rejoice when I sing to you, and my soul which you have redeemed. My tongue also shall talk of your righteousness all the day long, for they are confounded, for they are brought to shame who seek my hurt. Let us, like the psalmist, redeem our time by being constant in our prayer and our praise to God. Let us honor God by giving the proper respect to our bodies, bringing it into health, bringing it under control, whether we're controlling it in regards to sin in our life, which is a big thing that we need to control, or bringing it in control in regards to our diet, to our exercise, to addictions, anything that would hamper us from running our race, our spiritual race, to the fullest of our ability, so that we can then surrender it to God, that Christ may live in us. Let us discipline our bodies and thus honor God and make use of every golden moment that God has given to us. Let us praise and glorify God every moment that we have. We don't know the numbers of our days upon this earth, but the whole duty of man we do know. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Fear God and keep his commandments. That is the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man, or this is man's all. We've been given a great stewardship. We will be called into account for how we fulfill that stewardship. I pray that you and I will both be able to stand complete in Christ, as yes, unprofitable, because we've only been able to do that which God commanded us, but at least we will have done what God has commanded us. I pray and I hope that you have been edified through our time tonight. That way, whether we wake tomorrow to serve God here on this earth, or we wake to serve him tomorrow up there in heaven where we all long to be, you know, where we'll have the honor and privilege of being, because we'll see you then. God bless.